Nothing reveals more about a person than a good game of Kiss, Marry, Kill. Need proof? Take a look at the wild answers these celebs gave. It's a good thing that Katy Perry ended her feud with Taylor Swift before she started dating Travis Kelce. If they hadn't buried the hatchet, Perry could well have used a resurfaced Kelce interview to take a serious swipe at Swift. Perry and Swift were still frenemies in September 2016 when one of Perry's fans asked her if she would ever collaborate with Swift. Perry tweeted in response, "If she says sorry, sure." A month later, Travis Kelce played a game of Kill, Marry, Kiss on AfterBuzz TV. The Kansas City Chiefs tight end was still 4 years away from winning his first Super Bowl, and he was certainly nowhere near as famous as he is today. However, he had managed to score his own reality dating series on E! Called Catching Kelce. He was promoting this show when he told AfterBuzz TV that he'd kiss Swift, marry Perry, and kill Ariana Grande. Kelce also played the game with 3 of the Kar-Jenners, Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, and Kylie Jenner.
Oh, man. This is going to sound bad. I don't even know which one's which.
However, he ultimately made another marry choice that would no doubt make Swifties cringe, Kim Kardashian. Since it sounds like Kelce wasn't exactly keeping up with the Kardashians at the time, he probably wasn't aware that Kim Ye's feud with Swift had escalated earlier that year. Gwyneth Paltrow had Call Her Daddy host Alex Cooper in awe of her A-list romantic history when she appeared on the podcast in 2023. Cooper couldn't resist the opportunity to see if Paltrow was game to play F***, Marry, Kill with her famous exes, and she was. Paltrow was given the choice of her 7 castmate Brad Pitt, whom she dated from 1994 to 1997, her Shakespeare in Love co-star Ben Affleck, who was her on and off leading man from 1997 to 2000, and Coldplay frontman Chris Martin, to whom she was married from 2003 to 2014. Paltrow's marry answer was easy. She went with Martin because they share 2 kids. Pitt was her pick, while she delivered the death blow to the man who runs on Duncan. However, Paltrow had praised Affleck earlier in the interview when she was comparing his bedroom skills to Pitt's.
Ben was technically excellent.
But despite his apparent talent, he still lost that battle.
Brad was the sort of major chemistry, love of your life kind of at the time, you know?
While it sounds like Paltrow had a rather passionate relationship with Pitt, it doesn't sound like she'll be pulling a Bennifer anytime soon. In a 2022 interview with Pitt for her Goop website, Paltrow reminded readers that she's happily married to Glee co-creator Brad Falchuk. During the interview, she told her ex, "I finally found the Brad I was supposed to marry. It just took me 20 years." When Hoda Kotb appeared on Watch What Happens Live in 2016, a caller asked her to play Shag, Marry, Kill with Carson Daly and 2 other Today co-hosts, Matt Lauer and Willie Geist. Kotb decided that she'd shag Lauer and take a trek down the aisle with Geist, leaving Daly as the co-worker she'd put to death. She said, "I'm sorry, and I love Carson." She later discussed her answers on Today, which put her in the awkward position of having to explain herself to Daly. This led her to say something that had almost certainly never before been said on Today, telling her co-hosts, "I wanted to shag 2 people." Viewers also learned that Kathie Lee Gifford agreed with Kotb's shag choice, but would kill Geist with kindness. If they were to play the game today, Kotb and Gifford might want to swap their answers. A year after Kotb was put in the hot seat on Watch What Happens Live, Lauer was fired by NBC News for inappropriate sexual behavior in the workplace. When his axing was announced on Today, Kotb sat beside Savannah Guthrie as she read a statement from the head of NBC News at the time, Andy Lack. After Guthrie said her piece, Kotb added,
"It's hard to reconcile what we are hearing with the man who we know who walks in this building every single day."
In 2015, Nick Jonas played a less morbid variation of Kiss, Marry, Kill called Lips, Wife, Leave It. 2 of the options Capital FM gave him were his ex-girlfriends Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez. Before he revealed his responses, he made sure to note that he was happily dating former Miss Universe Olivia Culpo at the time. He also said that the inclusion of exes added an extra degree of difficulty to the game.
I dated both of them at some point in time.
Did you?
Yeah,
oh, amazing. So who was the better kisser from the 2 of them?
A little bit more uncomfortable.
After some deliberation, he decided to lips Gomez and leave Cyrus with a caveat.
Although I got love for Miley, she's great.
Nick revealed that he was on good terms with both exes, but it was a no-brainer for him to pick his Camp Rock co-star Demi Lovato as the woman he wanted to wife, even though she used to date his brother, Joe Jonas.
We're brother and sister and friends, and
that's perfect reason.
I'd prefer to spend life with her.
Sadly, Lovato told Harper's Bazaar in 2020 that she and Nick were no longer good pals, adding that she and Gomez weren't either. However, she was still friends with Nick's other aforementioned ex from their Disney days. Lovato said, "I talked to Miley, she's awesome, and I love her to death and always will." In 2019, a Watch What Happens Live caller asked Ashley Tisdale to play Mary Shag Kill with her Sweet Life of Zack and Cody castmates Dylan and Cole Sprouse. Her third option was her High School Musical co-star Zac Efron. Ashley's Shag was Cole and her Mary was Dylan. When she played a different game called Thirst Trap with Elle, she offered some possible insight into why she categorized the twins this way.
You know who texts me back all the time? Is Dylan Sprouse.
She added that Cole does her no such courtesy, but some fans weren't happy with her choices, including her decision to off Efron. Tisdale defended her choices on X, formerly known as Twitter, saying that Efron is like a brother to her, and adding, "Anyone questioning why I didn't pick Zac is very weird." Things got zany when Zoey Deutch played Marry Kill on Chicks in the Office in 2022. Her options were 3 different co-stars from over the years: Glenn Powell, Zac Efron, and Dylan O'Brien. While Efron had starred with Deutch in Dirty Grandpa, she decided that she wanted to marry a different castmate, Robert De Niro. She then revealed that there's only one man out of all the actors she's worked with that she'd place in the kill category.
Lot of Mary.
When the podcast's co-hosts began trying to figure out the identity of the actor whose existence she'd like to erase, Deutch quipped,
"This is like the most Scorpio thing of me ever, that I'm like making you guys guess who I would kill."
After looking at her phone, one of the hosts deduced that it was Deutsch's Why Him co-lead, James Franco. And Deutsch's reaction said it all.
I love this water.
It wasn't revealed what had made the show's hosts think that Franco was the culprit, but it's definitely worth noting that he had been accused of sexual misconduct by multiple women in 2018. 2 months after Miley Cyrus and Liam Hemsworth split up in 2019, Liam was spotted at an NYC restaurant with fellow Aussie actor Maddison Brown. An eyewitness told Us Weekly they looked really great together. Brown wasn't as well known as Liam at the time, so the media began doing a lot of digging into her past to give readers the scoop. One discovery was a video of Brown playing Marry Kill on the Zach Sang show just a few months before she was photographed with Liam. Brown and her Dynasty castmate Elizabeth Gillies were allowed to have some say in their options before the game began, with the only requirement being that they were Australian celebs. Brown insisted that Liam and his brother Chris Hemsworth were included. The other options were Barbie star Margot Robbie and X-Men actor Hugh Jackman, whom Brown immediately chose as her kill. As for her remaining choices,
I'm going to marry Margot Robbie because I would like to her for life, and then I will the Hemsworth brothers, but at the same time.
Brown explained that she could never have the Hemsworths as her hubbies because they're simply too hot and she'd want to keep them home with her.
I couldn't marry them, I'm too insecure.
This never became a concern with Liam, of course, who was spotted with his longtime love Gabriella Brooks later that year. The actor's fling with Brown, as it turned out, had been quite short-lived. Khloe Kardashian challenged Scott Disick to play Marry Kill on Cocktails with Khloe in 2016. His options were Khloe herself, Kim Kardashian, and Kourtney Kardashian. Disick and Kourtney had called it quits by then, but he described his ex as his girl and chose her for his Mary answer. If placed in his position, a lot of people would squirm when tasked with pairing the remaining 2 verbs with the names of their ex's siblings. But this is Lord Disick we're talking about. He didn't hesitate or bat an eyelash when he told Khloe,
"Bang you, kill Kim for sure, and marry my girl."
Kylie Jenner's on-again, off-again boyfriend at the time, Tyga, was also a guest on the show, and he had to spend a little longer contemplating the same question.
I'll probably marry Khloe.
Oh,
I would kill.
Probably Kim. Probably kill Kourtney.
Tyga's twisted reasoning for killing Kourtney was that Disick was his dog. But maybe Tyga would have answered the question differently if he'd seen the episode of Watch What Happens Live that aired just a few days before his Cocktails appearance, when host Andy Cohen made Khloe play Marry Shag Kill with her sister's partners at the time. She chose to end Tyga's life and spend the rest of hers with Kanye West. That left Disick as the one-night stand. Joe Jonas had no choice but to tell the truth when Andy Cohen presented him with a Marry Shag Kill scenario during his 2016 appearance on Watch What Happens Live. He was forced to decide among 3 exes: Taylor Swift, Demi Lovato, and Gigi Hadid. Swift famously immortalized her breakup with Joe in her music, and when she appeared on the Ellen DeGeneres show, she called him out for dumping her during a 25-second phone call. However, Joe reluctantly selected her as his shag. He said of their relationship,
"We're children."
Just like his brother Nick Jonas, Joe chose Lovato as the woman he'd put a ring on.
I'll marry Demi.
Okay.
She's a friend.
The exes proved this a month later when they gave a joint interview to Access Hollywood.
I have several best friends, and I definitely consider Nick and Joe as 2 of them, and brothers as well.
Joe didn't reveal why he wanted to give the Grim Reaper Hadid's number, but he'd previously made his feelings known about the model, rebounding with former One Direction member Zayn Malik. 3 months before his Watch What Happens Live interview, Joe told The Mirror, "I think it's interesting that she moved on so quickly. I mean, it was definitely very quick." Keri Russell was among the young stars who got their start on the all-new Mickey Mouse Club in the early 90s. When she was employed by the House of Mouse, her co-workers included Justin Timberlake, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, JC Chazé, and Ryan Gosling. Andy Cohen mined her Mouseketeer past for a game of Plead the Fifth on a 2017 episode of Watch What Happens Live. He kicked things off by giving her Gosling, Timberlake, and Chazé as Shag, Marry, Kill options.
That's awful!
She initially said that she was going to plead the fifth, and who could blame her? Cohen's other guest that night happened to be Russell's longtime partner, Matthew Rhys, who joked that he would marry Gosling. Russell, however, seemed to fear that a worse question was coming and soon had a change of heart. She decided to take care of the kill category first and chose Chazé.
Shag, Justin, because he's a good dancer.
Okay, which means he's probably a good lover.
This left Russell marrying Gosling by default and forming a throuple with Rhys, who pointed out,
Canadian, he's
Very
nice.
good.
It's Canadian, he's nice.
One Mickey Mouse Club member that Cohen left out of the game was Tony Luca, whom Russell actually dated for years. Maksim Chmerkovskiy was given the pick of every celebrity he's ever danced with on Dancing with the Stars when he played Marry Kill on the Allegedly podcast in 2015. 3-time Olympic gold medalist Misty May Traynor was the dance partner he could see making a great life partner, with Chmerkovskiy calling her an amazing chick. Instead of revealing who he would like to sleep with, Chmerkovskiy decided to share the identity of a contestant that he actually did have a romantic relationship with, singer Willa Ford. She and Chmerkovskiy competed on season 3 of Dancing with the Stars in 2006. But the show's eliminations are nowhere near as brutal as what Chmerkovskiy had to say when he decided to eliminate Hope Solo forever.
She's just a person.
The retired soccer star was his season 13 partner in 2011. Chmerkovskiy also complained about Solo's 2012 book, Solo, A Memoir of Hope, in which the Olympic goalkeeper chronicled some of the adversity she's faced in life. Notably, she accused Chmerkovskiy of being physically abusive to her during their Dancing with the Stars rehearsals. She wrote, "Max hit my stomach so hard with his open palm that I had a red handprint there for the rest of the day." Unallegedly, Chmerkovskiy accused Solo of lying and said that her difficult past doesn't excuse her being a bad person. For Bravo devotees, Sandoval was the biggest scandal of 2023 by far. The short version of the story is this: Vanderpump Rules star Tom Sandoval cheated on his partner of almost a decade, Ariana Madix, with her good friend Rachel Leviss. What made the affair such a big deal for viewers was the complicated history behind it and the sheer depths of the betrayal. When describing the scale of the scandal to the New York Times Magazine, Sandoval compared it to the O.J. Simpson trial and the murder of George Floyd, which is probably a slight exaggeration. Still, you'd think Sandoval would be nothing but apologetic whenever Maddox comes up in interviews. However, instead of respectfully refusing to play when she was included in his Marry Kill options on the Billy and the Kid podcast, he ominously said,
"You know what? This is easy, actually."
His other choices were also Vanderpump alumni. He opted to kill Lala Kent because he hadn't known her as long as Maddox, and his third option, Sheena Shea. He initially said that he wouldn't marry Shea, explaining that her OCD would get him, but he later had second thoughts.
I could flip a coin on the Ariana and Sheena thing.
When she appeared on the talk show Loose Women in 2016, Britney Spears played the less lustful British version of Marry Kill, Snog, Marry, Avoid. 2 of her options were celebs she's worked with before, fellow pop icon Madonna and Simon Cowell, who had joined her at the judges' table on The X Factor in 2012. The third was Justin Bieber. Spears had done the quickie wedding thing before, so it wasn't a shocker that she jumped right to the marry category and chose the Biebs as her groom. But just as she did after her spontaneous Sin City wedding, she had second thoughts and quickly annulled that union. Earlier in the interview, Spears had admitted that she liked younger guys, but she ultimately decided that Bieber was only worthy of a snog. In a 2022 Instagram post, Spears recalled meeting the young pop star for the first time during her Femme Fatale tour. He was 15 at the time. She wrote, "You were adorable. You're a little devil now." However, she also let the singer know that she's become a loyal believer, adding, "You're a timeless genius, and I will always dance to your music." As for the others, Spears has already done the whole wedding thing before and apparently does not want to do it again. She said that she wouldn't marry Madonna or Cowell. While Martin Chokosh's role in The Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring was small, principal cast member Orlando Bloom couldn't help but be a teensy bit jealous of him. This is because Chokosh got to play Celeborn, the husband of Cate Blanchett's Galadriel. When Blanchett and Bloom appeared together on The Late Late Show in 2018, Bloom confessed to his fellow flaxen-haired elf.
I had such a crush. Well, Legolas has a crush, and then I had the biggest crush on you.
Blanchett admitted that she never noticed Bloom's pining over her, and she revealed that she didn't even recognize him when she first saw him without his blonde wig. She did notice him at cast parties, however.
I was just walking around like spying on her from the corner of the room and stuff.
After that Middle-earth mushfest, perhaps Blanchett regretted sending a Galathram arrow straight to Bloom's heart on Watch What Happens Live in 2015. Andy Cohen's Shag, Marry, Kill grouping for her was 3 members of the Fellowship: Bloom, Elijah Wood, and Viggo Mortensen. Fellow guest Julie Andrews voiced her agreement with Mortensen being Blanchett's shag pick, while Wood was the co-star she would marry, which leaves, well, you can probably guess.
Sorry, it's not that I want to kill Orlando,
right, but you're playing the game. Very good.
Despite her reservations, Blanchett decided to off her fellow elf. Brutal? Maybe, but that's the nature of the game. Sorry, Orlando.